I don't see Gonzaga being able to have that level of shooting like they did yesterday.
No.
Like that was a when just you're on fire every now and then. That's an outlier game, as you laid out with some of the other games that they've played against tournament
Yeah.
teams.
The victorious Houston Cougars yesterday in a runaway win over SIU Edwardsville. And normally we don't talk about this team looks what a basketball team looks like when they get off the bus. And funny, a lot of the talk with the Cougs was they're not tall, like compared to you want to say traditionally basketball tall. A bunch of 6'8" guys with their wingspan is like 7'6", 7'5". They've got guys whose wingspans make up for their relative lack of height. But you just saw a different breed of athlete against SIU, and that's to be expected. It's not what you initially think about. It's usually a football thing. Okay, Georgia walks off the bus and they're playing Georgia Southern. There's going to be a difference in the type of athlete you're going to see. It was like that against SIU. Like the Cougs, even their fluidity, everything about it was okay. This is a mismatch from the jump. There isn't going to be this team who shoots the ball so well from three that they make it a game at any point, mostly because they weren't going to be able to get good looks. The Cougs were just going to smother them. That's part of the formula, and it worked out well yesterday. Good for the Cougs not to turn the ball over very much, forced some turnovers, played your defense, and got out of there with an easy win. So easy that you got a lot of guys from playing time. No one played over like 25 minutes, so it wasn't a very taxing game in any sense. And you get out of there, now you face one of the staples of tournament play over the last decade, 2 decades really, in Gonzaga. Gonzaga has an easy win over Georgia, and it started because Gonzaga shooting. They lit up the nets. They lit up Georgia. They went like 11 of 15 from three, and then they eventually finished 12 of 20. But they made 11 of their first 15 threes and really got out in the first half against Georgia. In fact, the second half, I think it was even. I think they played to a standstill, but when you're up big like that, the game is pretty much over. And that's an outlier for Gonzaga. I saw that stat flash across the screen, and I decided to look. Is that something the Cougs are going to have to worry about, just a hot shooting basketball team? The Bulldogs, Gonzaga, they are like a 35% three-point shooting team overall in the season. And it gets even worse when they face tournament teams. Now they have if you look at their schedule, very early they played some ranked teams. Baylor was ranked at the time. Of course, Baylor didn't have a very good year, and they blew out Baylor. I think a reference was made to it by Wally Zerbiak. He said that the Cougs need to be on high alert because of Gonzaga and their tournament tested, and he mentioned the Baylor game. Well, Baylor's not good. Don't mention Baylor. I know at the time we thought Baylor was going to be good, but they're not good. So that win doesn't mean that much to me. You beat an average basketball team very early in the year. But if you start to look at what Gonzaga's done shooting-wise, and I think that's the only way they really would beat the Cougs, if they can just shoot the lights out, against tournament teams. That includes 3 games versus St. Mary's, their conference foe, UCLA, and Kentucky. Excuse me, that's 5 tournament teams, 5 games against tournament teams, excuse me. Gonzaga won the West Coast Conference title shooting 1 of 15 from 3. In the other games, there were 4 losses. They lost to St. Mary's twice in the regular season, lost to UCLA, lost to Kentucky. Through 5 games against tournament teams this year, up until they lit the nets up against Georgia, shot 21.6% from 3. 21 makes, 97 miss out of 97 shots. So that's the outlier performance yesterday. So if you're concerned about Gonzaga having a great night, maybe they had their great night against Georgia. They are not that type of team. That's not what they do. They do not shoot the ball well against teams that are high caliber. They just don't shoot the ball well from 3 overall. What happened had to be a shock to the system for Georgia, because I'm sure they went into that game thinking, we can compete with them athletically. We just got to play our game. All the things they say. Don't turn the ball over, play good defense, and we got a real shot to win this game in the 9-8 matchup. Turns out Gonzaga had a hell of a night from behind the arc, and it got them the win. It's just not who they are. So I wouldn't expect to see that again unless it's one of this these things where it's tournament time and all their shooters lose their minds. Maybe the backdrop where they are is one that they like, and it turns out that it's just going to be a rough go against anyone who sees them in that building. But I wouldn't look too much into what happened against Georgia. It was a great night for Gonzaga. Credit to them for getting it done. But that ain't their way to win games. The Cougs have a real shot to smother them. And athletically speaking, I think the Cougs have the advantage. You just gotta defend the three. And I think they're more than capable of doing that. So this is a battle of teams coming up tomorrow with streaks on the line. Gonzaga's and their long streak of making Sweet 16s. And so the Cougs are right there. Not as long of a streak, but we know the Cougs have had a lot of success. And there's some respect. In fact, there's respect from one of the Zag stars, Khalif. Let me get his name correct. I don't want to butcher his name. And now it's on the file. I think I lost the name.
Khalif Battle.
Khalif Battle is the guard. He has some experience playing the Cougs. He was in the AAC with Temple, so he knows the Cougs and their program well. And Kelvin Sampson. Here's Khalif Battle, one of the Zag stars, on the matchup for tomorrow.
Played them 9 times in my life. You know, I was in the American Conference, and they were in the American Conference. They were dominating that conference. I mean, Coach Sam he's one of a kind coach. The way they play is one of a kind. I mean, they're so mentally tough and so tough as a team, and defensively, you know, that's their identity. You know, and they can really score the ball as well. You know, I know a couple of guys over there as well. But I mean, this is a great program. I'm happy for everything that they always achieve, but, you know, come Saturday, it's time to compete.
I was looking to get worked up. He was too damn respectful. He was too respectful of the program. I was like, look, I don't have anything against Gonzaga. They've been one of the great stories in college basketball. They've done everything they could do except win it all. They've been to title games. They've certainly been a dominant force out west. As far as consistency, who's been more consistent out west than Gonzaga? It hasn't been USC or UCLA. UCLA has had certain runs as well, but over the last quarter century.
But the longevity of it, right?
It's been Gonzaga. They are the standard bearer for West Coast basketball, even though most people wouldn't think about Spokane at all when it comes to being a basketball power. It's part of the story as well that you've been able to build a program in that part of the country and continue to win basketball games at a high level. But I need you to die a painful death tomorrow. That's all. As much as there's plenty of respect likely between Mark Few and Kelvin Sampson, and we heard Khalif Battle and his respect for the Cougs, I need that respect to lead to you dying, maybe not so slow. I want this thing to be over quickly.
You want it to be a quick one?
Yeah, quick death. Maybe not so painful. I like a quick death, actually, because it means I don't have to stress in the second half.
Not this long, arduous, torturous process. No.
I don't need this 65-58 game where the Cougs get a defensive rebound or an offensive putback to seal the day. Let's get out early.
Another 70-30 type game.
Well, maybe that's too disrespectful, Gonzaga, but that'd be cool. Something like where the Cougs get off to a hot start and Gonzaga regresses to their normal shooting, and they start the game 2-11 from 3, and it seals their fate. And the Cougs have a 15 to 20 point lead halfway through the second half, and it's like, okay, we're good here. That's what I'm looking for.
That's what I'm looking for too.
Yeah.
There's not. I don't see Gonzaga being able to have that level of shooting like they did yesterday.
No.
Like that was a when just you're on fire every now and then. That's an outlier game, as you laid out with some of the other games that they've played against tournament teams.
Yeah, it's not who they have been. We shouldn't expect it to be who they are unless you deeply believe in once a team gets hot in the tournament, it'll continue. And while that has proven to be the case in years past, 11 for 15 to start a game from 3 is ridiculous. No one should expect that. It's not going to happen. The question will be, will they shoot well enough to keep them in a game? Because games are about runs and momentum, and at some point you as a fan and as a player have to get yourself situated about, okay, this is the game is going to be. Like if they start shooting the ball pretty well and it's a close game throughout, all the thoughts of an easy win go out the window, then you got to strap in. Okay, this is how this game's going to be. Let's find a way to claw our way to a victory. I hope for a different way to go about it, just because I like to have a pretty stress-free Saturday night, and then
Same.
and then you can sleep comfortably watching all the games on Sunday, knowing you've got a Sweet 16 in your future. So that was kind of the roundup of that setup as far as what the game might look like. Tomorrow, of course, I mentioned the Aggies. They get a win less comfortable, but they find a way to put away Yale. Yale tried to put a run together in the second half, but the Aggies, there was a sequence where they hit a three and then got an offensive putback to go up by 3 possessions, and that kind of sealed the day for them. So as far as we're concerned, it was a good day overall for the city and the station as a whole. I don't know who's going to be running that game. Maybe the person on the schedule who has to run Aggie basketball wasn't thrilled. Oh, man.
The person that saw it was like, oh.
But hey. You don't do it for free, so maybe that's the benefit. But hey, it's a Saturday.
That's how I used to look at it.
Yeah.
Hey, I got paid. I'm getting paid.
I understand you might have different ideas about how you want to spend a Saturday, but as Don Draper once said, that's what the money's for.
Exactly.
A little less than what people in the 50s and 60s were making as an ad.
Yeah, probably.
Ad person.
Probably a little bit.
Yeah, probably a little bit less.
Not
but
the
hey,
same.
we will compensate you for having to come in on a Saturday. I don't even know who that is, but hey.
I would guess Cam, but I don't know offhand.
Yeah.
So good luck, Cam.
Good luck, Cam.
He enjoys it. He's fine.
Yeah, he can sit here, have the game on the radio, have the game on air, and do whatever he wants. Watch television.
Yeah.
Watch.
See?
I'm sure he's got a streaming app on his phone or on his laptop. It'll be good. Cam will be fine. Whoever it will be, we will have Aggie basketball this Saturday, and also Aggie baseball this weekend, right? We got that too.
Today.
Yeah, we got Aggie
today
baseball as well.
at 5:45 coverage begins.
So we are your home for not only the tournament, but the Aggies specifically, and of course we'll talk about the local team as they are on their way to see Gonzaga tomorrow. As anytime I mention the Cougs in any sense, you can expect the Cougar paw from Michael. If you're looking
it's going
at
to
him.
happen pretty much throughout the show.
Yeah, if you see him on Twitch or Twitter or YouTube, he is throwing up the Cougar paw, and rightfully so. It was a nice, comfortable win.
It's like just a twitch that happens. I just hear it, and it just goes. It just goes up.
Hey, you had the polo on yesterday. You don't have to. No need to wear it today, I guess, because maybe you need to have washed it between now and yesterday.
I need to wash it.
And also, there's no game. It's not game day. Game day is tomorrow. How do you do it? Are you a person who watches these games at home because you don't want to be around people, or do you watch them around people?
I don't want to be around people. Why do
in general, or just for basketball games?
Both.
Understood.
Is all the above applicable here?
Sure. It's
okay,
how I treat things. Like if a game matters, you're not going to get me out of the house to watch it. If it matters to me, I want to be my insane, crazy self and not have to tamp that down because you're around. Like if it's a game that doesn't matter, you want to invite me someplace, cool. I'll watch the game with you. I mean, I don't care if the Browns are playing the Jags. I don't care about that.
Yeah, a game's a game at some point. Yeah.
But if it's a game I care about, if I've done enough research or have followed this team for years, no, I don't want to be around you. I don't want your dumb questions ruining the experience. Like, it's in a more extreme example of how you feel about Super Bowls. Like, for our entire lives, my entire life, your entire life, unless you had a different rooting interest, the teams that have been in these Super Bowls, you don't care that much about. You'll watch the game and maybe pick a side, but I'll watch Super Bowl with you because my team's never in it.
I'm also just not a fan of like when people are just yelling random things at the screen, like "run the ball." It's like, but that's not what they're trying to do in this case. Or just fans in general frustrate me in different ways.
There was a time when back, I think now 2010, the 2010 World Cup, we had a big push here when we were still 1560, and Jake's, which is a restaurant just around the corner, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
We had a World Cup party. It was U.S. versus England. I think it was maybe the first game of that World Cup for the U.S. team. They played England a couple times now in the World Cup. And we were sitting down at Jake's watching the game, and someone uttered the phrase, "Why don't you guys do a power kick?" I believe, and with a lot of confidence, like with his chest, like he knew what he was talking about. I believe he was making a reference to a free kick, but he used the term power kick, and I was like, okay, I'm in the wrong crowd. I mean, like the U.S. had a bad loss yesterday against Panama in a tournament that I don't care about, but they've dominated since its inception over the last like half a decade or so. But that's not as embarrassing as a alleged soccer fan saying power kick
What-
in the middle of a World Cup.
What power kick? What are we watching here?
Look, it's one of the things where that guy heard, hey, we're playing England in something. People are excited about the World Cup. Let me get involved. That's what it was. He didn't know any better.
I mean, I get wanting to be involved. Like, I got invited to like a rugby match a couple weekends ago, and I watched it, and I was like, cool. But I'm not gonna, like, if I don't know the sport, I'm not gonna just yell random things. Power punch that person.
Yeah, don't
yell. I don't know.
Don't yell at the screen if you don't know the terminology.
Just don't. Yeah, just take a step back.
Like, if you want to wear your Landon Donovan jersey,
Hey, respect.
understood.
Yeah.
But keep the rest of it to yourself. There are people around.
You know,
I can hear you.
You don't have to say everything that pops in your head. I'm just saying.
Certainly not when it's power kick. That was an unfortunate situation. The result was better than what we saw if you were watching USA Panama. At least in that one, it was a tie that ended in a draw. The U.S. lose a game 1-0. Willie P called in about that earlier this week, and I don't even know if I got to his question because he had a couple of things he wanted to talk about because that's how much I didn't care about this game. Win or lose, and it turns out the U.S. lost, and no one else cared because there was barely anyone at SoFi yesterday, outside of like Thierry Henry, who got a big moment with the Panamanian who scored, because the guy the night before or at the hotel being interviewed said Thierry Henry was his favorite player. So he scores a goal in like the 94th minute, seals the U.S. fates, and he jumps over one of the barriers, and because Thierry Henry and the CBS people were on set waiting to maybe talk before the extra time period began, they're sitting on the set. He jumps over and gets on stage and just hugs him, and like 7 more Panamanians come over and hug him too because it was a game-winning goal. And Thierry Henry was like, I don't know what's going on, but hey, buddy, love you. And then they eventually interviewed the guy after the game, and he explained all the things about how Thierry was his favorite player and so on and so forth. It's interesting to watch that broadcast because you had Maurice or Edu, who is a U.S. international former. Yeah, Clint Dempsey won as well. And you watch those two watch the Panamanians because we see it live. You barely see those guys, and they re-showed it. And these guys are like, I can't believe we just lost to Panama again. And so they're kind of trying to get it out of the way. And you watch Thierry Henry and the Panamanians celebrate. And it was a moment, if you don't care about the U.S. team, it was a great moment. If you do, you're pretty miserable that this happened again, even under a new manager. So it is what it is. I've seen enough U.S. soccer disappointment to not be moved by what happened yesterday. Trust me. Okay. We'll get more into the tournament as we go along today. We'll get you the times for the Cougs on Saturday and also the Aggies because you'll be able to hear that here. We'll talk about some of the other things that happened. And also, I want to get to this. Will Wade, who apparently will be the NC State head coach, there's a lot of discussion about, hey, he hadn't signed his deal yet, but how can you make this announcement when you're still in the middle of a tournament? This is one of these cases where everyone's more concerned by it than the actual people involved. So we'll get to that in a little bit. We'll do our spring training update from the Astros, our final one, as they will play a couple more games and then be back in town when we get back to face the Space Cowboys before the regular season begins. So a lot to get to here. Michael Carroll here with me. He'll be here still at 11:30 to do what you should or shouldn't watch.
Yes, in fact, I will join you at 11:30.
Yes, he will remain at 11:30 to do that, our weekly segment with him. I watched the Severance finale last night. It was Severance, so there's some weird stuff in it, but overall, in my opinion, a pretty good finale. And of course, you got Reacher and Wheel of Time, all the Prime shows that are on, and of course, The Pit on HBO. So a lot to get to. I'm way behind The Pit. I got to catch up on that, but there's plenty to talk about in that segment and plenty to talk about before we get there. We will be back.